What makes a bass line funky? And what makes a bass line fresh? And what makes a bass line sensual? The thing about synth bass is, it's inherently a very sensual experience. And it's good to have someone to guide you through this experience. But you know what I've noticed? There's not a lot of ladies in the synth spaces. So I want to encourage more ladies to join the fray. Come on, fellas, let the girls have a try. You can't be having all the fun. That's not fair. And that's why, for a limited time only, I'm offering a special ladies-only masterclass all about synth bass. For only a small fee, I will teach you everything I know about synth bass, and much, much more. So if you want to sign up, send me a picture of your b***** to this email address. I'll see you there. Today, we're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to slow things way down and get intimate. And whenever you're getting intimate with somebody, it's good to have boundaries so everyone can feel safe. And one of my boundaries is no eye contact. Seriously, no eye contact. If you look into my eyes, it's off. The whole thing's off. Now, when you're trying to come up with a bass part, the chords create a boundary for what bass notes you can play. And you can test those boundaries a little bit, but if you test them too much, you start to look a little bit like a creep. So first off, let's talk about sticking to the root note. There's nothing wrong with sticking to the root note. In fact, that's probably going to be the best thing most of the time. That's usually the job of the bass. You're just trying to hold down the root so other things can shine. So there's generally an inverse relationship between how complicated the lead elements are and how simple the bass should be. Usually that's a pretty good rule of thumb there. So when you're holding down the root, you're just keeping it pretty simple, sticking with the kick. You might visit the neighbors a little bit. Do little chromatic runs like that. We call those passing notes. They're like mini fills. There's lots of stuff you can do to make it more interesting. Play against the kick drum. Or syncopate, or do some like polyrhythm kind of stuff. You know, when you're working with limited notes, that's when you're given license to get more adventurous with the rhythm. And the next logical step is adding octaves. And don't be afraid to use two hands. The octave has a nice little neighbor there, the ninth. And it's a nice place to visit sometimes. And then of course you've got fifths. And the fifth has his own little neighbor buddy, the sixth. Fifths are just so easy to find. They're like little magnets or gravity wells. They're just right in the middle, and it's very low risk going for a fifth because they almost always work. The fifth is a very stable interval that just begs to pull you back to the root. which is why it works so well. Alright, now we're getting into the danger zone a little bit. The fills. This is where things can get a little bit more risky. There's much more of a chance you're gonna fall on your face. The main function of a fill is to give you tension and transition to the next note or chord. And also, just add a bit of variety and keep things from getting monotonous. If you think ahead and just practice some fills, you can keep them in your grab bag of tricks and pull them out whenever you need them. I tend to like chromatic things or scales that kind of lead from one thing to another, kind of linearly. These scale runs are the perfect connective tissue, taking you from one place to another. These really long runs that signal a new section are a great place to just let it all out and dump a bunch of notes. I underestimated how difficult it would be to talk and play at the same time. It's actually way harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm having a lot of trouble here. And the final thing I want to show you is motifs. Motifs are kind of like these little pre-thought out melodic phrases that move around depending on what chords you're playing and whatnot. Or at least that's what I'm calling them. And we've already been kind of doing them a little bit. Motifs are basically just structure pretending to sound like improvisation. It may sound like it's free form, but it's still governed by boundaries. Don't touch my knees. Don't be touching my knees. That's my rule screen. And don't objectify me. That's about all the bass stuff I can think of at the moment. Maybe I can't do all your fancy pants little Rick Wakeman doodly-doos. Or maybe I could. I just choose not to. But you don't necessarily need all that for a solid bass line anyway. If you can dream it, you can do it. You just have to believe in yourself.